The key message I want to get to in today's lesson is that you're capable of more opportunity than you think, but that opportunity is so often a different path than the one that you're actually on. And to get to that path, in almost every situation, you need a culture, a team around you that has everything it takes to actually break from the path that you're already stuck on. In the last lessons, we walked through chaos-induced recharting, which is my term for the periods of time we go through when it comes to, let's start with path dependency, when times are going well, crisis, which is not good for anyone, which leads into chaos, a year or so when you have a chance to try something new, and recharting, that period where you can find that new path of what you're truly capable of. As a recap, once again, we were path dependent probably for the last decade. Things were going well. Then COVID-19 hit, putting us in crisis, which isn't good unless you're a mask maker. And that will lead us into a period over the next 18 months, 6 to 12 or 18, let's expand that, of chaos. And chaos is actually predictable. You can identify new opportunity, consumer needs evolve, and there is opportunity in chaos, which can help you rechart the path that you're on. Chaos causes organizations to cling to the past, but the past is not always right. And for that, I want to tell you the curious tale of the menacing monkey. This is a little guy I photographed. I stumbled upon him, and the menacing monkey wants nothing more than to find delicious food like a banana. So that monkey was in a room, and the room had a ladder. On top of the ladder was a banana. But there was a tricky situation, because if the monkey approached the ladder, he would be sprayed by water, and very quickly the monkey learned not to go up the ladder, not to approach the ladder, not to try to get the food. A new monkey, a new menacing little monkey, got into the very same room, and the first thing he noticed was this ladder with a banana, and it didn't matter that there was a hose. He inched towards to get the banana, only to find himself protected, if not, overruled by the other monkey who said, "No, you must never approach the ladder, or we will all be sprayed." Pretty soon, new monkeys were introduced into the room, and each time they were introduced, they saw that ladder, they saw that banana, they all turned towards it, and very quickly, if anyone actually approached the ladder, the rest of the monkeys would protect him from touching the ladder. Over time, all of the monkeys were replaced one by one from the room until all of the monkeys there had never ever seen a monkey been sprayed, and in fact there was no longer a hose. But it didn't matter, because at this point all of the monkeys learned you don't approach the ladder, you do not go for the food. Why? Because that's the way that things are done here. This story emphasizes what happens in organizational culture. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. That's actually a quote from Peter Drucker, and it's a trademark violation by me with the giant Pac-Man, but I like to think it really shows off my PowerPoint skills, so I went for it. And I did it for you, to really illustrate that it doesn't matter how good your PowerPoint slides are actually. The culture that you have, your team's culture, emanates throughout everything you do and will be the most important ingredient in determining whether or not you can evolve and find those new opportunities and realize, yeah, maybe now we can approach the ladder and find the food that is rightfully ours. In the Create the Future book, in its 5-part framework, culture is the second section after ability to change. We just finished the lesson on ability to change, and today everything is going to come from the tactics and lessons learned from helping several hundred clients now in their quest to create cultures of innovation, not just saying the word innovation, but the actual tactics, examples, and stories that would help you to make an organization that can support creativity and new ideas. When we dive into culture, I'm going to break down this topic into the 5 factors that are most important in a time period of chaos. There are many other factors important in creating your office culture, but these are the 5 factors that tend to have the most impact on helping one navigate through time periods of rapid change. The first factor is urgency. Next, perspective and the problem you're trying to solve. A tolerance for failure, customer obsession, and intentional destruction. So we'll dive into each of these, kicking off with perspective. Specifically, what is it that you're trying to do? Right now, as I pose that question to you, it might seem simple, but By the end of this lesson, you're going to realize how powerful this question can be in helping you navigate through time periods of chaos, and how powerful it can be in helping you realize what your organization is truly capable of. I'll give you a couple examples about how other organizations have answered the question of what it is they do. At Harley-Davidson, a senior executive was asked, and what he noted was, what we sell is the ability for a 43-year-old accountant to ride through small towns and have people be afraid of him. For Apple, Steve Jobs noted, we make buttons on the screen look so good you'll want to lick them. That's his answer for what Apple does. Wow. At Red Bull, the answer is a completely different response to what we do. It's completely different, and the target for us is not a demographic, it is a state of mind. At Patagonia, one of the world's most sustainable companies, a beacon of sustainability and environmental causes, in the early days, Ishinwar was trying to think about how to grow. There was huge demand for his product. Everyone wanted them to scale faster, but instead they turned around orders and focused on quality and their impact of the world. And the quote that he gave in his annual statement, which became a bit of the mantra and ethos of the organization, was, "It's not the attainment of the summit, it is the style of the climb." I give you all of these examples to note that no matter what industry you are in, you are not actually selling a product or service. You're actually creating an experience. And in a time period of chaos, that's a very important concept, because the product and service that you sold last year might not actually be the same product or service as next. However, the experience you create very well might be the ethos that guides you throughout eternity. And that's one of the important concepts when we enter a period of chaos and chaos-induced recharting. So when I started with this question, it's actually pretty important. Specifically, what is it that you are trying to do? And I'm going to show you a couple examples of how that played through. The airline industry is one of the worst industries in the world to be in, especially today, but over the last series of decades, just consistently, it's riddled with failure. And yet there's one that seemed to turn up in every case study because they figured out how to navigate through most storms and thrive, Southwest Airlines. And I'm not going to spend a long time on Southwest, but there's one particular detail that always stood with me for years. And it's that in the early days, Herb Kelleher's answer, the founder, to what is that we do was always one thing: low-cost airline, low-cost airline. And there's a fabled story that in the early days, a market researcher came to him and they said, hey, the market research came back and it said that customers would pay more if we had a salad on board. So we did some more research and it looks like people would like a Caesar salad and a garden salad. So which salad do you think we should add? How do you want to approach it? And his answer was, low-cost airline, low-cost airline. Oh, got it. Okay, so we shouldn't have a salad at all. And what happens is that when you do the research on an individual little item, like offering a salad, guess what? It may very well come back that the research will say you should offer a salad. But actually, if you think of the grander vision of navigating chaos, making a strategy work out, following a vision, then it's important to follow that original mantra, low-cost airline. And actually, in your organization, and in all organizations, there are little teeny tiny decisions being made everywhere that are much akin to that decision of a salad. Individually, those decisions that are being made are correct, but they might not roll up to helping you navigate chaos. So this question is important, and it becomes the anchor for your culture as you navigate a period of rapid change. I'm going to reinforce this a little bit more by showing you a case study of an organization pre- and post-recession, and I'm going to show you how their answer to that question could have had a very different impact on their reality and their outcome. Let's dive right in. From their website, Blank has been turning creative ideas into breakthroughs for well over a century. Next up, they invented grammar checkers. What do you guess now? They invented the electronic dictionary in 1985. They invented the laptop word processor in 1989. they started building PDAs in 1994? The answer is Smith Corona, the best typewriter company in the world. And that is a title that they still have today. Now, I want to walk through Smith Corona a little deeper. It's an organization I've gone really, really deep into studying, and I want us to look at their situation from the perspective of their managers. And what you're going to find is these were educated, smart people making smart decisions, kind of like the decision in Southwest Airlines to add a salad on the flight. But they just all add up, all these little tiny correct decisions. So let's take a look at Smith Corona back in the 80s. So first of all, Smith Corona was an iconic innovator. This screenshot from their website shows on the 8th day, God created Smith Corona. Wow, audacious claim. But they made that claim because look at all the things they invented. These were relentless innovators. If you thought of an innovative company in the 60s, 70s, 80s, Smith Corona was on that list. And by 1989, revenues were at record highs, $500 million and growing strong. So from the standpoint of a company, they're an iconic innovator, things are going really well, they have relationships with every single possible corporate customer, every bank uses them. Smith Corona is the gold standard. And when it comes to computing, guess what? They knew computing was the future. The CEO noted, computers are the logical extension of our line. And so in fact, they decided to get into a joint venture with Acer, and they started making computers that were on shelves in 1990, 1991. The problem was 1991 is when a recession hit. And when that recession hit, Smith Corona started worrying about what was going to happen. How would they navigate the storm? They started making the right decision, moving operations to Mexico, trying to cut costs, all quote unquote the right decision. And one of those decisions was to tell the computing team, you know what? I don't know if we should have as much investment happening in computing. Because guess what? Another little piece of feedback is that their largest competitor for years, Remington Rand, did get into computing even earlier, and they ended up declaring bankruptcy. So what do we learn from watching our competitors fail in a particular market? Maybe it's toxic, even though Rand was way too early, perhaps. What's more is that computers around 1990, they looked awkward and bulky and terrible, just like all new inventions. That was the Commodore 128. It was state-of-the-art. It had 2 external floppy drives, what? And an external screen, external printer, a keyboard, cables everywhere. Well, guess what? All of that was built in to the Smith Corona PWP-40 from the exact same time period. It's simple, it's clean, it's neat, it prints nicer than a dot matrix printer. It has spell check, you can save onto a disk. It has laser quality printing, you can save. It's essentially like a laptop 10 years ahead of its time with a printer built into it. Now start thinking about who your largest customers are. They're multinational corporations, governments, banks. Individuals don't type things. Typing is something done in big corporations. And what do you think they want? Do you think they want a better version of what they already have from you? Or do they want that thing with the cables and the wires and the boxes? So when the recession happened, all of those factors combined with the traps, which we talked about in the last lesson, the traps of path dependency all started kicking in, which include the ease of an action, the discomfort of trying something new, linear thinking, optionality, and the reality we make fewer big decisions than we think, the traps of successful people, neurological shortcuts, and the subtlety of how new disruptive ideas, like the computer, seem awkward. Layer all that together, we stick to the path we're on, we cut the computing division, and we focus on the typewriter business. They tell their internal team, guess what? We will get back to computers in a few years once that market is ready. We don't want to be like Remington Rand and move too quick and go bankrupt. So by 1992, just as the recession is really kind of in its middle of its storm, they kill the Acer deal. When they do, the CEO, who previously told us he believed computers are the future, didn't deny that, but he said, many people believe that the typewriter and word processor business is a buggy whip industry which is far from true. There's still a strong market for our product in the United States and the world. Wow. 2 lessons. First, use the word buggy whip in your press release and you're predestined for failure. But also, this is a pretty big example of framing your situation and knowing what mission you're actually on. Because 3 years after that decision by the CEO, well, Smith Corona declared bankruptcy for the very first time, and Acer went on to become the 2nd largest PC maker in the world with none of Smith Corona's help or connections, government contracts, B2B contracts, or know-how. So the question then is important. Specifically, what is it that you're trying to do? And if Smith Corona thought deeply about that answer in a time period of chaos and recession, they could have come to 2 very different outcomes. Is it that we are here to record human thought? Or do we want to be the best typewriter company in the world? Culture eats strategy for breakfast. And the starting point of your culture is knowing what mission you're actually on. Some tactics we learned from Smith Corona's lesson would include, number 1, don't be seduced by the complacency of your size and your past success. Number 2, look beyond the failure of others. Number 3, new ideas are awkward. You must assume tremendous potential in rival thinking and new concepts. Number 4, avoid retreating to your comfort zone. Number 5, and most important, situational framing dictates the outcome of your strategy and strategic process, which really, for me, can be summed up in one question, specifically, what is it that you are trying to do?